And your speaker chair, that's me. And if I'd been organized, we would have a flip chart today, but I'm not that organized, so. When we did our retreat earlier this year, one of the things that came up again and again was that we're more interested as a congregation in spirituality. And then that bears the question, well, what is spirituality? What is it? And so I'd like to have a little bit of audience participation now, and see what you guys, how you define spirituality. And we've already had some music that lovely defined it, but I'd like to tell me what their concept of spirituality is. And what I'll do right now is repeat it for the audience. Go ahead, Mary.
So, this is not my ultimate definition.
Why don't you come up? Do you mind?
It's not my final definition, but what comes to me is this life force that connects me. It's definitely about connection and that oneness.
Thank you. So for Mary, it's about the connection to a life force, which is why I love that the exercise we did for meditation, because for me that connects me in that way. Someone else?
Can I say something?
Absolutely. Next.
Hi. It's so interesting that Mary said that, because since I moved to this island, spirituality is everywhere. I mean, the island itself is alive. People are connected to, they call it the Aina, the land, all the life force. And in the law here, actually in a statute, the Aloha spirit is in the law. And I'm going to read, it says, each person must think and emote good feelings to others in the contemplation and presence of the life force. Wow. And it even says that in exercising their power on behalf of the people and in fulfillment of their responsibilities, legislature, governor, lieutenant governor, everybody else may contemplate and reside with the life force and give consideration to the Aloha spirit. And truly, I came here kind of for, because it's a beautiful place and all that. I've been coming here for years, but what really has spoken to me is the connection of people to each other, people to the animals, the land, and the land itself is alive, and you can feel it, and it's so spiritual. That's,
wow.
I want to share that.
I wish I was there, Carol. Thank you. Someone else? Maybe Pat.
Well, in our book club, there was a definition of spirituality, and what they said is that anything that is not material is spiritual, and that made a lot of sense to me. And my definition of spirituality recently has changed. In the past, it was a person was holy, or then they upped it to a more fancy term, spiritual. If you're really spiritual, you, I guess, go to church. But my definition of spirituality for me is that part of me which is not what you see. It's my essence, it's my awareness, and it's my feelings. And the thing that will go on forever, wherever it goes, which is another big topic, I guess, is my awareness. And so that's what it means for me. I just have to say, one time I got into an argument with a friend of mine because she's wondering, doubting things, and I was saying, well, everybody's spiritual. She says, I am not spiritual, So I tried to convince her she was spiritual, because it didn't mean going to church or believing in anything, but I don't think it's so good to try to convince anybody they're spiritual or not. Just work on your own stuff. Thank you.
I feel my spirituality in knowing my place in this world among other living things and placing as much importance in them as I do in myself. And I find honesty is really my core of my spirit.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Robin. It's what calls to my heart. Every time something strikes me in a way that I feel inside, whether it be animals or the waves or the moon or the femininity in people, whether they be male or female, that's to me what is spiritual to me.
What everybody has said is what rings true to me, but one thing that I haven't heard is what makes you happy. What makes me happy, I think, is what makes me spiritual. Like, I don't know, like going outside. Like last night, I was out and seeing the moon. It was just so beautiful, and I just felt like it's part of my spirit. Like I just, whatever makes you happy. Yeah. Yeah, peace.
You're sharing beautiful things. And I know it takes a little more courage to walk up here in front and speak into the mic instead of staying in your seat. In the past, we've done these services in the round, but so that we can include our Zoom participant, we decided to stay with this format. So, I'm hoping as we continue that people who have something to say will feel the ability to come up and share it to the mic. Anyone else that wants to define spirit, their personal take on spirituality at the moment? Linda.
Not mine necessarily, but when Carol spoke about the aloha spirit that she experiences, I think about the Nanticoke, Lenni Lenape that were here on the land. And we honor them every time we meet. And it grounds us in our spiritual ancestors on this piece of geography. So I just offer that. The way I think of it is things go better with Coke. Things go better with Nanticoke. That's how you say that.
It's when the very, very first time I came here, I felt that spirit here. I just was so moved by this place and the energy here.
Yeah.
And it was part of the call me. Well, I did a little bit of research reading about spirituality and religion and the difference between the two. And we are a religion by definition because we do meet in a more formalized setting, but we're not like most religions. Because most religions started from a place of deep spirituality. But then all these layers got put on top of it. You have to do this, and we need the money, and it kind of lost, in many cases, unfortunately, their spiritual tenets. So you years, I think, are in kind of a special place with that. We don't have a lot of those layers. We're allowed to do our own search for what's important to us. So spirituality, I like this, is your conscious self recognizing you are more than just a body, that you are a soul with infinite possibility. Something like that. Spirituality has no rules. Religion, on the other hand, is based on pre-established beliefs, dogmas, and practices. Again, those overlays that they put over the initial spiritual experience. Spirituality allows you to discover your truth, and there's emphasis on your truth. Religions tell us what is true and false. Again, that's that layer on top of. Spirituality is inclusive, and we're an inclusive Religions tend to be exclusive. Religions tend to focus on punishment. God's gonna get you. You know how you felt when you were a kid with some of that? Where spirituality tends not to look at those issues at all. They might look at karma, which kind of is an easy definition is you get what you give. What you put out is what comes back to you. Spirituality tells you to follow your heart where it leads you. It sets you free to be the best you can be. Not because of the fear of punishment, but just because you're you. Spirituality based on love. Religions, unfortunately, tend to be based on fear of God and fear of punishment. Spirituality is a uniting force. It sees the ribbons of truth in all practices and takes the best of all of that to heart. Where religions tend to separate and say, my way is the only way. Spirituality teaches us to take full responsibility for our lives. This is our life, how we live it, and we're responsible for it. And to act with good intention. In spirituality, you're encouraged to turn inward, to find your own truth, and to find God however you define God, within yourself and all of life. And I like how God can be the mystery, like in our first song. It can be divine intelligence. There's many, many definitions. And you and this faith are encouraged to find your own definition for that. In religions, the concept of God is predetermined with set rules and how to see God and how to worship God. So that's kind of a good definition of the two, and really shows you what we offer as a faith as compared to most others. So the second part of this is how do we practice our spirituality? And I'll share what I do, and then maybe we can talk a little more about that. So one of the important things for me is almost every day, and I'd like to say it's every day, but it's not. I spend a quiet time. I spend a quiet time reading some daily reading books. I journal, which is a great way to get kind of that angst out. And in our times right now, there's lots of angst. And doing some meditation practice. I spend time every week listening to some podcasts from other spiritual teachers and reading possibly other books from other spiritual teachers. And I am in a spiritual book study. I try to practice every day knowing and acting that there is a divine spark of God, divinity, in all things and in all people. And I was asked recently in our book study, how could I send love to Putin and to another figure that one who gives his name? And I said it's because I can acknowledge the divine spark in that person. They may not act from that place, and it may be pretty buried, but there's still a divine spark in everyone. And then I can honor that and send love to that part of that person and hope that it helps to ignite. I work towards being non-judgmental, and that's a tough one. I work on always coming from a place of love. Again, not always easy to do. And working towards taking nothing personal. Those are sort of the things I'm working on right now. And then part of my practice is being here and wanting to come. So those are some of the things that I do to grow myself and grow my spirituality. And I would love to hear from some of you what you're doing.
So I'm Irene, and I see spirit as being your essence, like who you are at your deepest place, how you see the world, how you feel about it. I think the way I practice it is being out in nature, and it could be just looking out the window when I wake up in the morning, just noticing the trees, the animals, and everything. But definitely always has been that connection to taking walks, being by the water, and being in forests. And I think it's just a real sense of being on this earth and the Earth being in the galaxies and, the whole schmear, the whole thing. So that's how I see it.
That kind of is the very first thing, I forgot to say that, thank you. And speaking of the spirituality of the world, sitting behind Roseanne, on the screen behind Roseanne, there's a church of Daddy Long Legs going on as we're here in church today. It's really cool. There must be, 15 or 20, maybe even 30 Daddy Long Legs on that particular screen. And I don't know why they're there, but I think they came to church to join us today and they need some spirituality. Someone else.
I am Joni. I take not a few minutes, maybe 20 seconds every morning when I wake up, saying a prayer of gratitude for my eyes opening and hope for everything good that's going to come my way that day, because there's always something. I also, like Irene, I try to get out to nature all the time. These days it's just horrible. I have to make do with looking out the window. But I have a special tree on the trail that I pass and sit in front of that. And of course the animals. They are my heart. Four-leggeds are better than two.
Or is good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? People have talked about feeling that special heart connection to something and how that's a spiritual moment. Would anyone like to share any special heart connections they've had lately that have made them feel that connection with you all?
I didn't understand.
A couple people talked about when they feel like, they're out in nature, they feel like they'll see an animal playing or something, they'll feel that, that kind of feeling of joy at just something playing out in front of you that makes you feel more connected to the all. Sometimes it might be seeing a child play or standing by the waves going in at the shore. And you just feel that, when you become insignificant at the ocean, you feel totally insignificant. The massive size of that place. And there you are, it's a little tiny speck, almost like a speck of sand in front of it.
I have some.
Go for it.
Yeah, here, there are rainbows all everywhere. There's a rainbow on the license plates, but because there'll be mist, there'll be sun. So like in the morning when I walk my dog, there may be a rainbow that way, in the afternoon the other way. But every time I see them, it still takes me back. I get that feeling of awe and it's always unexpected, even though there are so many of them. But it's still, every time, it takes my breath away.
Thank you. Again, I want to be there.
Sorry.
I think I mentioned some of this a couple of weeks ago, but I visited a longtime friend who has Alzheimer's. And I went to visit her, and she did not recognize me. But as we started to sing, because in the past we used to do little skits together, and I did some of them, and she knew them right away. I felt that she didn't know me, but our spirits connected. I felt we were totally connected in a spiritual thing, and I think we looked at one another, and it was like, yes, we do know one another, but not on this material level. And for me, that I think about that all the time since I went. So that was a very spiritual moment for me, and I think for her. So just wanted to share that.
It's a beautiful example, and I think music is another one of those places that can connect in with us very deeply and connect our heart with something greater than us. Irene?
I have two things. The first one I think is coming from a book that I've been reading lately, and it has to do with like the galaxies and how complex that all is, how vast it all is, and that, I mean, we are one planet, but we are like such a tiny speck in everything that is out there. And just to think about that vastness, I think was I felt like it was really sobering to think that, we are just, not to minimize the fact that we're insignificant or anything, but that how big and how much there is out there. But anyway, I'm reading this book called In a Flight of Starlings. Starlings are the birds that they kind of flock together, and sometimes you see them in the sky and they're like all moving, and they're all, like there could be thousands and thousands of them, and they're all making different configurations, and physicists actually are studying that phenomenon to figure out how that happens. And I haven't gotten far enough into the book to see if they actually figured it all out, but they were taking 3D photographs of all the birds to see like how close they were to each other, and they could sense like each bird, they came to think that each bird sort of had a sense of how close they were to the others, and the birds that were on the outside of the whole configuration were the ones that were like giving the signals of like how to go and where to go. But anyway, just the, I don't know if you've all seen that in the skies.
Yeah.
That's one for me.
Wow.
I'm going to share something about a time when I felt especially spiritual, although I always feel spiritual in my fragility. About 8 years ago, I was leaving community medical center from a mental health group, support group, and I had been really very ill, but still me. And it was December 1st, and for the first time in a long time, in quite a few years, I felt myself coming back to myself. And I was driving home on Double Trouble Road, and I walked out of community medical center, and it was about, I'm going to say the 50s to high 50s, maybe 60 degrees, and I said, wow, this is what it's all about. It's December 1st. And I was driving, and I just felt the urge to talk to God. And I actually said out loud, dear God, thank you for being with me all the time. Thank you for being by my side. I always feel you, but I always can't find you. Please stay by my side. An hour later, I woke up in the emergency room at Community Medical Center with a broken neck, barely surviving a car accident. Somebody had hit me from behind about 30 seconds after I prayed to the Lord, or to God, or whoever you want to call her, to the spirits. And my neurologist and my orthopedic, a day later, would talk to me when I was more awake, or more with it than I usually am. And looked at me and said, we don't know how you survived. The police officer talked about your car accident. We just don't know how you survived. And I know how I did survive.
You know, there are many miracles that happen around us that often we don't even see. And then sometimes we have them smack in the middle of our faces and we really see it. And it reminds me that if we can stay in the now moment, we will see more of that, feel more connected to however we define the divine mystery, and be more centered in how we are in the world. And if we can stay in the now moment, it's much more here for us than if we're worried about something we did in the past, or we're worried about something's going to happen potentially. So this now moment is what it's all about. I guess my final question for you all is, this all came because there was an interest in more spirituality in our services. Does anyone have any thoughts about how we can bring spirituality into our your presence in a more active way in what we offer as a service, in what we do? And I should also say that so many of us are in service out in the community, and that's also very much a part of the spiritual practice. And I'm very grateful and thankful that there's so many of us that do so much out in the world and take our faith and our belief system and our action out there. But more specifically here, there's a thirst for it. So what is it that you need and want here that maybe we're not doing yet? Maybe there's a topic we could have as a sermon. Any thoughts on that? And if you don't have it now, let the board know if there's something that comes to mind. Irene's
So I have a similar thought as Barb's. Like to know what you would like to know about in terms of spirituality in our services. And maybe you have a definite idea of what that could be, a definite topic. Or maybe right now it could be just a word or a feeling or something. So I'm just going to pass this around, and if you feel like it, jot down. Like I said, it could be a total idea or just a partial thing.
Thank you, but I also am thinking about it. Almost everything we can do is spiritual. It's what we bring to it. And one of the things I like about our services is sometimes I may not resonate with the topic of the sermon or what's being said that much. But there's almost always some gem, some special truth, some awakening moment, something that I can take from the service that I'll find to use in my life going forward. Or just sometimes it's the words of one of our songs, the music of those things. So I think there's always the rhythm of spirituality here, but maybe we're not quite as, maybe we just need to tweak it up a little bit. I'm not quite sure.
Do we want to add layers?
No, we don't want layers. Not if anything, we want to take any layers that are there away.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The layers, that's an interesting concept. I guess one of the things I've learned in my studying about life in general is that when we're born, we come in pure. We come in this beautiful little being with wide open to everything, every possibility, and in the moment, and full of the divine energy. And then the layers get put on us. Our parents tell us things, society tells us things, teachers tell us things, TV does, media, blah, 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 and then we have all these layers. And our pure essence, our spark, divine spark, is buried. And what we are doing here, and as we explore spirituality, is removing those layers so that our true essence and the divine spark within is what is shining through us as we interact with the world. And to me, maybe that's a really good way to sum this up. That's really what the spiritual walk is about. It's getting rid of those layers so that our pure essence is what we're coming from and our connection with it. So thank you. Thank you for this. Hopefully you've got a few tidbits to take home. Now is the time